In this video, we'll start with CellFlow, which is what powers the Foundry theme you've seen in the early tutorials. Start by creating a new level and drop in a dungeon actor. And reset the transform to 0. Let's get rid of this and save. Now right click, go to Dungeon Architect, Dungeon CellFlow and CellFlow Graph. Okay, now we want to set this up in the dungeon actor right away. So select the dungeon actor and change the builder class to CellFlow and assign this. Now we need one more thing. Right click, create a dungeon theme and assign this as well. So expand the add an entry to themes and add this up, save. Great. So now let's open up the theme graph, the CellFlow graph. Double click. So this is the CellFlow editor, and as with all flow based editors, you have a execution graph where you would define the flow node rules, and right clicking here, you have, they usually go in a certain order. So you start with the create cells node, and this would create the working area for you where you can grow your paths inside of it. So for now, let's just hook that up to the result and see what it creates. So it has created something like this, and you can keep hitting the build button to randomize the result. Now let's create a path through this. So create a main path, and to break the link, you have to hold down Alt and left click on the pins over here, and then drag and drop here, and let's build this. So this has grown a path through it. So this was the initial thing, and then it just grows a path of the specified length, which is path size 12, and it goes like this. And then it saw that it could grow to the adjacent node, adjacent chunk here, and another adjacent chunk here and over here, because there's a shared edge over here. So there's an opportunity for us to make a connection later on down the line where we can promote one of these edges into a door. And then we know that there is another adjacent one next to this, because we have some shared edges here, and one of them would be turned into a door, and it just grew a path through it. Now you can create more paths from this. So I'm going to right click and create path. So the path over here, the main path, if you select the main path node, you have the path name, which is more like an ID that you can use later on to reference this path, and we'll be using that down the line. There are a few more things like the spawn point, marker names, which we'll get to later on, but the thing you want to be looking at is the path size. So if I will reduce this or increase it, I would change the number of nodes or the distance that you want for the main path. And the main path would have the spawn marker. So you see the S over here. So this means that there is a marker somewhere around this place. So when the dungeon is generated in one of those blocks, it's going to emit out a spawn marker, and this will be the name of it, start marker name. And you also have another one for the goal where you want to have something here. So let's delete this and right click and create path. I'm going to break this Alt and click on this, and then click on this and connect them up. So the create path function, if I select this, the min path size is 3 and the max path size is 5. Let's build this. So what has happened here is we've said create a path from anywhere between 3 to 5, size 3 to 5. So it's created a path of 3 chunks. So here, connected with this node. So somewhere around here we'll get a door. And we also have these options, start from path. So it can emit out of an existing path. You see this green path over here, that is the main path. And we say that we want this to emit out of the main of the main path, and optionally you can give an end on path as well, a valid path name of any of the existing branches that you have created, and it'll merge back into that. So if I were to give this main over here, this will merge back into this. So you see it has merged back into this. So one set of rules, but infinite variations that honor the rules that you've specified here. All right. Now what we also want is before ending this, you need to have a finalize node. So pass it through the finalize graph, and let's see what happens. For now, select the finalize graph and uncheck separate adjacent rooms, and then hit build. And if you start from here, we had this, and then we grew a main path through this. Then we had a create path where we created a path like this, and then finalize would do a few things. First, it would, as you can see, so it created a very nice height variations with stairs, and while doing so, it made sure that the stairs are not being occluded and they don't reach a dead end. And we also have some nice height variations, and we would also have doors between them. So let's take any one of these. So this chunk is connected to this chunk, and a door would be displayed as a red line. So this is a door. And if I were to take something here, so you see this chunk over here is connected to this chunk, and it decided to make a door over here. So that's how it works. Now let's go ahead and add a few more. Add another path, get rid of this, connect this, connect this. Now let's give another color to this, maybe this, and I'm going to call this B2, and let's call this B1, and let's just build this and see what happens. So here I have another branch coming out like this, and maybe I want this to connect back to the main as well. So, or I want this branch, B2 branch coming out of main, but I want to connect it to B1. You could do that as well. So let's see if that worked. So the purple one should come out of the green branch and connect back to the orange one, the yellow one. At times it would also promote some of the doors to one-way doors where you won't be able to pass through. So if I were to come from here to here, this would be the door, and this is the only way to come through it, signified by these arrows. You won't be able to go through here. This does some calculations inside, and it determines that you have to go through this path, otherwise you take a shortcut through this. You could also create key lock pairs. So create key lock, and you would specify where the key should be and what is it that you want to lock. So in our case, I want the key to be maybe in the somewhere in the green path. So let's keep the key in the main path and the lock in the purple one, which is B2. So we have the key created here in this chunk, so that means a key would be spawned here. Now key locks are really whatever you want in your game. It could be an NPC holding a key, it could be a lever, whatever. And this lock here is, as you can notice, it's in the connection, it's in the link, not on the node itself. So that lock will actually be placed over here. So this allows you to emit something from your theme editor, like a lock door, and link it up with the key blueprint that is spawned over here. So all of that will be taken care of. So this is how the key lock works. You can have a lot of key locks, different treasure rooms, boss fight rooms, protected by keys, and so on. Quite a few things. So now let's spawn in a few enemies, spawn items. So let's just build this. and I want, oh, we gotta give a path. Where do you want this to spawn? So let's spawn it in the main path. I want the enemy marker name grunt build, so it has spawned like 4 over here, and you can also have varying difficulty where as you approach the goal node, the end of it, the difficulty increases and you get more and more and more of these. You can just adjust it from here. So if you see 3 dots like these, you will simply have a marker named grunt populated somewhere within this chunk, and then you can use the theme engine to spawn those in. It could be your NPC blueprints or treasure chests or anything you like. All right, so let's quickly start designing our dungeon theme. I'll switch over here and head over to content plugin, Candy, and go to meshes. All right, so we have this, and I want to lay down the ground. So let's double click the ground and drag drop a ground tile here. All right, now let's double click the wall, double click this. So let's complete this first, and then double click here, wall, double click this, and drag drop a, let's select both of these and drop it in. So one of them will be used. Now one of the issues you'll notice here is the edges are shared, right? So this wall is slightly raised and they're both intersecting, so we need to move it out. So select this or this and move it out a bit. Now let's drop in complete. Let's drop in a wall separator. And increase the to 1.1 and the thickness to 1.2, 1.2. And since we moved the wall out, let's also move this out a bit. Okay, so done. So we have this, and you can go ahead and add a bunch of stuff here. Now let's use the the Foundry theme that we created. So I'm gonna save this and exit out of this. Let's randomize and see. Build, randomize, build. You get a different dungeon every time. So now let's put in the Foundry theme. So FOUND. This is the one that comes with the thing. I'm going to destroy this and I'm going to build this. So here's the Foundry theme. First off, the size of the Foundry theme is 800 by 800. So we're going to fix that first. Select this, go to the settings, change this to 800. 800 by 800. This really depends on the art asset. The art asset that we use, the modular art asset, it's 800 by 800. So we need to put that in and destroy, build. And we have this. There will be some issues with this though. Now I'll show you. Since we're using shared walls, right? So the walls are shared. We might have some issues like this where this thing is overlapping with this, and our art assets are usually like they're concave, they're going beyond the wall boundaries and outside the dungeon like this, right? So we really want some open free space after the behind the walls. So we do not want any shared edges. We want something to be this. So this is not ideal because it's not looking good. So there's a flag that you can set. Again, this really depends on the art asset that you're using. So let's go back to our graph, save this. No, to save anyway. All right, so double click, open up the graph, and if you go to the finalize, you have a bunch of things you can use for the height variations. There is one flag, separate adjacent rooms. What this would do is it would guarantee that you have, if there's a wall, there will be an empty space behind it. So the layout will be more or less the same, and it would just spread things out a bit to accommodate for that. So let's build this, and you see this is like this, and the doors would also be they'll have a block dedicated for them, and one of the edges will be used for the doors. So build. Now let's go back and build it now. Now, one of the things to note about the flag that we just set, the flag in the finalize node, the one with separate adjacent rooms, what it does is it doubles the size of your dungeons. It does that so that it has space to accommodate for the extra padding that we give between the adjacent walls. But what it does is it makes your dungeon very big, and in this case it's extremely big, and we might want to tone this down. So I'm going to select this, bring the main pad down maybe to 8, and build, and let's see how this works. Still too big, so let us get back to this, and in the create cells we will reduce the size of the cells themselves. All right, so in cell size, let's keep this 2 and 3 and bring this down to maybe 6, build, and maybe get this down to 6 and 2 to 3, 1 to 3, build. So the bottleneck here is the actual spawning of the meshes. Right, the algorithm is pretty fast, so you can see I'm just building it instantly. But spawning all of these meshes into the engine, that is a bottleneck. So yeah, this is good, manageable, and we got our first CellFlow graph up and running, and we built it ourselves, and then we used the Foundry theme to decorate it. In the next video, we'll explore the other flow-based builders.